Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the two big games which took place over the weekend. Aston Villa running away 1-0 winners over Chelsea. And the big one, Arsenal dropping points to Spurs, that one ending in a 2-2 draw. Now, joining me this evening to dissect these two games, we have returning to the platform, Carey.
Yes, viewers and subscribers, back once again. Well, I don't know why it is phrased that Arsenal dropped 2 points, and it's not said Spurs also dropped 2 points, and I don't know why we consider at this point Chelsea versus Aston Villa as a big match. So, but we're still here. We're still here, just going to share some knowledge, and we'll break down things as usual, get different perspectives. So it's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, indeed. Strong opening statement there, Carey. Man comes out firing, the Arsenal defender as usual. But yes, let's jump into it then, Carey. We have the two big games. Let's first take a look at, Chelsea again, losing at home this time to what you could now classify as a very solid looking Aston Villa team. What was your take on that game, Carey? Tell us.
Honestly, I think at this point we're not so surprised to see this result. Whether it's at Stamford Bridge or whether it's away, this is just the Chelsea that we just honestly, this is the Chelsea I've been getting accustomed to since last season coming into this season. Um, I'm still allowing them some time, Pochettino, he just came in. And some of his major signings have gone down to injury, so I can't really say much to say, man, maybe he's not getting the job done, maybe he's not the right man for the job. I can't say that as yet, because we still haven't seen him play with his full healthy 11. But at the end of the day, they are still the professionals, and the players that they have signed, we have the Enzos and other players that they have signed. We have seen they have probably the most expensive midfield in the Premier League. We still expect them to get some form of results. And we do expect them at least grab a goal or two, but we're getting to the end of September and Chelsea still has failed to register a goal in any competition whatsoever. So it's not a good look to Aston. They seem like a well-oiled unit right now. I don't expect them to, finish in the top five or top six, but I do expect them to challenge maybe for a seventh or eighth, causing it to upsets here and there. So it's a good look for Aston Villa.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, credit has to be given to the Aston Villa team and, Unai Henry in terms of the results that he has been getting from the start of the season, and definitely this one, Ole Watkins finally getting on the score sheet, that's his first goal of the season. And it was a quick counter, by the Aston Villa team. Chelsea was looking to carve out a chance, lost the ball in their own, in the attacking, 18-yard box of Aston Villa. And then within seconds, the ball was in the back of the net, Diaby and Ole Watkins breaking at pace, and you could say that shot caught out Sanchez somewhat, subsequent replay showed that that ball went through his legs and it was game set match after, because at this point Chelsea was down to 10 men to add salt into the wound. They were playing with 10 for what would consider a long stretch. Gusto, the defender, going in for a very hard tackle and was subsequently given a red card and a sending off. And at that point in time, the writing was on the wall, really. So, but it's same old, you could say, from the start of the season for Chelsea. You
Last
know, failing to find the back of the net, the fans are beginning to turn now as well. And Pochettino is now under some pressure to get some form of result. But the results just keep eluding them. Goals win matches, and they are finding it very hard to score goals. Right now, if they're looking to get a goal of the month for the month of September, they're going to have to take one from training, as none is being produced right now in the real game. So that is the key, issue they're having. And of course, new signing Jackson was being looked at as the one who would, get some goal production. But thus far, he has only scored once, I believe, in six,
And
and
he's
the
out.
goals have dried up.
He's out no, because he picked up his yellow card on the weekend, so he'll be missing the next match as well.
Well, it's hard to see where Chelsea will find their next points, because I was looking at a list of games coming up, and it's gonna be a task, just based on how they are playing and the opponent they are
Great.
facing. It's gonna be a task, getting points.
Yeah, man, because their fixtures straight from now till to this December. It's If you're going to look on it and look on the fixtures, and not just the fixtures, not just the opponents, but most of these games are being played away. And if they can't register more than 3 shots on target at home, I don't see them going to the Etihad to do it. I don't see them going to the Emirates to get it done either. I don't see them doing it at Old Trafford. So it is, as you said, you're right to say it. It's tricky to see where they will pick up those points.
Well, to be honest, in all fairness, in this game against Aston Villa, they did manage to create a few what I would classify as solid good chances. Jackson got a one-on-one with the keeper, you could say, and also Sterling. So those were two solid enough chances that they should have tucked away, to be honest with you, especially the Jackson one. And Sterling got a chance, but he seemed to have over dribbled somewhat, and the goalkeeper managed to cut the angle you know. So chances are being created, but they are just not clinical in front of goal, would be my assessment. And of course, defensively, they are still leaking a goal here or there, which is really what is leading to their demise, failing to score on one end and then leaking a goal here or there on the defensive side of things. The non-selection of Chilwell is still a puzzling one for me. And, playing Colwell at, what, left back rather than centre back. So that is a tactical decision, which to me is not working out too well, because, Pochettino likes to play with his fullbacks high up the pitch. And currently, I'm not sure if there is any better attacking left fullback in the league than Chilwell. So I'm not sure why he is not even in the team and starting. That one is an odd one to me.
But with Gustav getting the red card now, it would be interesting to see how the lineup coming on the weekend, because I'm assuming that Chilwell would have to be played in that match. Or that's just the assumption that Chilwell will slot in into
Well,
the
based on how Pochettino has been playing since the start of the season, he's gonna go Colwell again and Modric. I don't see Chilwell getting in a start in that game. I really don't see it. I mean, it would be very strange to now bring him in after, the last couple of games he's been sitting on the bench and coming on as a sub. So that one is a puzzling one to me. And of course, in the midfield, we see now Gallagher, wearing the captain's armband. Of all the players, you have Gallagher captain in the side. Strange again, very strange. To me, there might have been some falling out with Thiago Silva, in my estimation. Of course, Thiago was at, I believe, PSG, while Pochettino may have been there, so their paths may have crossed at some point. But, you know, Thiago was the captain, and taking the armband off him and put it on Gallagher is again something to look at. A storm may be brewing in that Chelsea locker room.
a puzzling move. I think as I said, I think, but the biggest one for me, as you probably would agree, is Chilwell not being in the team. I think everyone is still wondering why not, because if you look on Chilwell's track record, not just goals, but when it comes to his assists, he's one that will put the crosses in the box and not afraid to go there and take a shot or two. Even last season when Chelsea picked up a few points, it was really Chilwell who handed them those points. So to see Chilwell on the bench and having the likes of Gusto and all of those persons, you wonder what is happening. So,
Yeah,
but
he's now on the outside looking in. But on the Aston Villa side of things, I mean, as I said earlier, you have to definitely credit Aston Villa for how they set up. They managed to keep Chelsea at bay while creating a few chances themselves. If not for the goalkeeper, to be honest. Pulling out what I would classify as two top class save, one from Dine and the other from Zaniola. Two superb saves, which really, managed to keep Chelsea in the game. And without those saves, Chelsea could have been behind the eight ball even before the sending off of Gusto. But, once Gusto was sent off, then the writing was really on the wall. And, Aston Villa really managed the game well, defended stoutly and ended that game, with a clean sheet and with all 3 points.
and it was really good to see Ollie Watkins get off the mark finally because we know that he has the potential to be a top striker. Well, let's say a striker who can hit farm and cause problems to any defense. So it's final to get that burden off his shoulder. Because they said when some strikers, get the first one in on the season, they can go on to make some strides. So hopefully, Watkins can continue, even if it's to grab a two goal here and there. You know, I know Emery would definitely look forward to that because we have seen what Watkins can do. He was doing it. He was doing bits last season, and we know that Bailey is. Oh,
Well,
he has
Bailey's on the fringes, Bailey seemed to be on the fringes and not in Emery's first choice selection.
he has the potential, but I think what is evident to a lot of us, maybe that work ethic that Emery wants, maybe is not there. But we can see Diaby and Watkins kind of forming a nice little partnership, which can be deadly to.
Yeah, I mean, Diaby has been ever present from the start of the season. He has started all 6 games, so it's quite obvious that he is first choice and a clear favorite of Emery. And then of course Zaniola came in and Zaniola has now started the last two. So Bailey seemed to be the odd man out as it relates to cracking that starting 11. So he may continue to get a substitute appearance or appearances in the Europa Conference League, but in terms of being a first choice name on the team sheet for Premier League matches, that ships seem to have been sailed.
Right, right. I agree. So maybe, as you said, we have the EFL Cup starting tomorrow. So maybe he can get some cup matches. Hopefully, he can impress. See if he can catch up a bit of a farm. Because even though players like to play in these cups and, as a player like to get minutes, that being in England, you want to play the Premier League. You don't really
Yeah,
want.
definitely. That's the top-notch competition. That's why you sign the big contracts to be rubbing shoulders with the big boys. No one want to be sitting on the bench on the weekend.
Exactly. So it is what it is. But we
It
move.
is what it is. And we have to move. We need to move over there to the Emirates, the big game. Some consider this the best game of the season thus far. Arsenal being held to a draw by Spurs. Carey, you're the Arsenal man. Talk to us about this one.
The best game of the season came 2 hours after that because we saw Newcastle drop 8-0 with 8 different scorers.
Well,
So
that was really a one-sided affair, but in terms of a competitive nature type game, a derby game, the atmosphere was electric in the Emirates.
of course. But I wouldn't say yes, it was competitive in terms of the scoreline. But if we really analyze the game from start to finish, Arsenal kind of, and I agree with what you said earlier. Just to be fair, I agree with what you said. Arsenal did drop the 2 points because Arsenal controlled proceedings for most of the matches. Most of the match, we created better chances. Um, our 2 goals we can say came from 2 mistakes because after the lead, the 1-0, Raya, he made an error led up to the first goal, the equalizer. Then we took back the lead, and then Georgina made an error again, which led to the second goal.
Well,
So,
these were really forced errors, I would say. These were not unforced error because, Spurs have was pressing in that game. And,
but,
that is really what led, especially to that Giardino game, especially after Arsenal took the lead. It was straight from the kickoff. Do you realize that?
but that's the thing for me.
That goal came straight from the kickoff.
An error is an error. That's just how I see it. An error is an error, whether it's
Well, it's just even more compounded with the fact that as soon as you went ahead, you were picked back. You didn't even get a chance to resettle in the game. That second Sun goal came directly from the kickoff. I was like, what's going on here? Big error there by Georgina. And of course, we see a number of the Arsenal players going down with injury. We might not know the severity. I am hearing that Rice had a back issue, hence he was substituted at halftime. But
right.
you could definitely see the golf in class. Once Rice was off, Bissouma started to really dictate the game. And I thought Bissouma had a tremendous game in the midfield right there.
Yeah, man. So as I said, for me, whether it's unforced or it's forced, an error is an error. Professionalism should be on display, but don't take anything from Raya because for me personally, I think he pulled off an early contender for save of the season.
You mean that save from Johnson, I believe?
Yeah, man. It's an early contender for save of the season. 90%
Well, yeah,
90%.
it was definitely a tremendous save, I must admit. But as you rightly said, that first goal from Son, if you re-watch that goal, it's Raya with the error that led up to that goal. I'm wondering to myself if Ramsdale would have done a better job in goal. We see Arteta making that bold decision now. It seems as if the writing on the wall now is clear that Raya is the number one, and Ramsdale could only sit on the bench and try to cheer on his teammate. But it's a poor look.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a poor look. It is what it is. It's a whoever, whoever gets the start, you support them and you wish them the best. It is what it is. Because at the end of the day, you want the whole team. It's not one man lifting the trophy, it's the entire team. So,
Mm. Well, you speak of trophies, but I'm not too sure that is in the Arsenal horizon. Before the start of the season, I've been constantly preaching Arsenal needs a number nine, and that is clear. If Jesus could score as well as he presses, then he would be up there with the likes of Haaland. But
he
a
would be up,
clear-cut chance he missed in the 18 yard after pinching the ball.
he would be up there,
You
but
have to hit the target.
not with Haaland. But he would be up there, but not with Haaland. It is
Yeah,
what
I believe Arsenal need a nine because I think that money spent on Kai, you should have just supplemented that money and go out and get a quality number nine.
oh,
And, I believe that decision may very well come back to bite Arsenal.
man. But as we see in recent reports, the official reports that is right now, ESPN, Sky Sports, they have approached Brentford for Tony in January. You
Well,
know,
I mean, that's a far way off. By then, you could be easily out of the title race. January may come too late.
well, you see, and that's the thing. It's the EPL. We could be out of the title race by then, and on the flip side, we
Yeah,
could.
man, you'll be all things being equal, you will be out of the title race by then. With all these injuries, I'm expecting more points to be dropped.
No,
And with Liverpool pushing Man City at this point in time,
no.
then it's gonna be a dogfight up there at the top of the league.
Let me ask you a question. Which quality team has Liverpool really faced this season? And let us take just Newcastle. In my opinion, it's just Newcastle. So,
Well, I mean, you have to play what's in front of you, and thus far, anything that has been presented have been taken out of commission. So I
mm,
can't. That's a double-edged sword. You can't play who you haven't faced.
no,
You can only take care of business with those who have been presented before you. And thus far, I mean, Liverpool is definitely off to a flying start.
they are
And I mean, as I said, they've been taking care of business with
up.
who have been presented in front of them. This game coming up for Liverpool, though, against Spurs, should be a good benchmark test. should be a good acid test in terms of determining, how far they have come. But they have the longest streak currently in the EPL. I believe they have now, what, 17 games unbeaten in the EPL. So that in itself speaks volumes, and you can't really take that away from them. But it should be a very tight and interesting game, coming up over the weekend. That one taking place at the home of Spurs, Spurs versus Liverpool. So,
Mm.
viewers and subscribers, you should definitely look forward to us previewing that one. It should be a massive game. But getting back to this fixture though, Kiri, what were your thoughts on the tactics leading into this one?
I think both sides got it right. Let's just be honest, both sides got it right. Going into the fixture, I personally believe that Arsenal was the better team. And for
Mhm.
I've seen that in the opening half, but as I said, here came the injuries, and we saw immediately when Rice was substitute, we saw the immediate impact of that. So it shows the quality that Arsenal has, and but for me, it also has shown the improvement of Spurs in comparison to last season, because and one would think that they lost the talisman, so maybe they would have declined in quality. But Spurs right now, to me, playing behind Brighton, I would say Spurs is playing some of the best attacking football in England right now. Behind
Mhm.
Brighton.
Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, the coach has now implemented a new system, and the team is no longer dependent on any one individual, but they are working more collectively as a team. Of course, the two key pegs in that attack would have been Madison and Son. So I am actually surprised that Arteta did not formulate a plan that would have limited the impact of a Madison, because Madison had a tremendous game. He's the one who supplied the two assists. And throughout the game, he was just, popping up here, popping up there, and really getting that combination with Son going. So I'm kind of surprised by that. But that being said, kudos must be given to, the coach in maintaining his style of play and really going to the Emirates and trying to take the game to Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal was pressing very high and oftentimes pinch the ball in the defensive third of Spurs. But again, as I said, poor finishing, not being clinical enough. Those turnovers could have led to a few goals and it would have been an easier game for Arsenal. But again, failure to take your chances resulted in, Spurs coming back into the game and eventually finding an equalizer.
Right. So for me, I agree. I concur with everything except the Madison part to an extent. Yes, Madison had a very good game. But if we notice the first 20 minutes or so, Madison, they had to be chasing the ball.
Right,
They,
right. Well, I mean, naturally, I mean, playing away from home, then the home team is going to take the impetus. But what you could see is that as the game wore on, it was Spurs who, to me, wrestled back the game and was looking the more dominant team, especially in the latter part of the second half. I'm not sure if it was fatigue or the changes in personnel,
just the top.
because players like Nketiah. I mean, Nketiah is no top striker. That must now be clear. Nketiah is a good mid-table striker, a good liquor baller to play for a Brentford or a Luton. A
No,
decent quality fit, but not a top striker who you're looking to win the EPL with.
I think Nketiah right now is above Luton. Let us be honest when it comes
Well, he
to
could possibly go to Luton and star for them, or even a Burnley.
we're
But
not
I
going
mean, certainly, I don't see Arsenal winning the EPL with Nketiah playing any key role in that attack.
I concur with that. I concur with that. That's why I think the move going for Tony will be a really even if we're at 10th position come January, I think getting Tony would be a great addition going into the rest of the season, going into next season. So
Well, then again, one has to wonder what sort of form Tony will be in, having not played competitive football for in excess of 6 months. What kind of Tony are you getting back? Obviously, it's going to take a few games for him to even get warmed up to the pace of the league and fitness and getting understanding of the Arsenal system.
But
So
at the class is class. So
well, oftentimes I hear a few persons talking and they're saying, hey, some players are system ballers. Ivan Toney may have just been tailor-made for the Brentford system and may not necessarily have the capacity to make that transition to another system, so to speak. So, even though he is a quality striker, I am gonna hold my judgment on that one. I'm gonna have to see him first in Arsenal red and see how he fits into the team. So I don't think you should hitch your hopes on the potential signing of a Ivan Toney. I think Arteta should just concentrate on working with the personnel at his disposal and getting the results. But for sure, for me, from my observation, this is a different Arsenal compared to last year. Something is missing from this bunch. I don't know if it's the personnel or the tactics, but this team is not churning out the performances as they were churning out, this time last season.
right. I think it's just the early injuries because if you think about it, last season we didn't get any major injuries until the latter part of the season. But in our first game, we lost Timber, who was a key part to our preseason and what was
Well, it's hard to judge preseason. We see, Jackson for Chelsea look very good in preseason, and now look at him. So who can tell what Timber would have looked like in the regular season?
was
He lacks Premier League experience. So even though he looked good in preseason, playing in the Premier League, coming up against tough teams is a different ball game. So you know. But yeah, for sure. I mean, the injuries are going to hurt this team,
we have
and
lost
quality is
Timber,
is a factor.
we have lost Timber, we have lost Martinelli, we have lost Partey, we have lost Rice, we have lost Trossard. So right off the bat, down by five key players. So right
Well, I
now,
mean, this isn't unique to Arsenal. In all fairness, I mean, look at City as well. City have also lost players, but they have managed to bring in quality to replace those to fill the gap left by those players. I mean, they lost Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva is out. A few players have moved on to greener pastures, a Cancelo, etc. So, I mean, every team has to deal with injuries, Carey, at some point. That can't be any excuse.
talking about injuries in the season, we're not talking about transfers off and transfers being replaced. We're talking about injuries that start since the season. They have only lost Kevin De Bruyne, basically, and
And
Grealish
Bernardo as well.
Bernardo. What Grealish is back now, as we
Yeah,
see.
Grealish was out for a period as well. Now they've also lost Rodri to red card, so he should be suspended for 3 games for violent conduct. So it will be interesting to see how this team function without Rodri there, running off the midfield.
But and
I'll be curious to see how they function going forward.
his last suspension should be against Arsenal at the Emirates, so he won't be for that match. And I
Mm,
think, due to the medical reports that we've seen from Arsenal, Rice, Trossard, and Martinelli should be back for that Man City game.
mm.
So
Yeah, interesting times ahead for sure.
interesting.
Interesting times ahead. But I mean, Arsenal I mean, by the time that games comes around, Arsenal may very well be struggling outside of the top four. Who to tell?
Yeah, we can go either way. Because as I said,
Mm.
Liverpool fixtures will get difficult. Spurs fixtures will get difficult.
Well, I mean, everyone goes through a tough run of games, but I think that is what determines whether you are champions or you are runners up. It's how you deal with a complicated, schedule of games and, and that's what separate good managers, Kerry. It's how you manage your resources and deal with these games. And to me, thus far, Arteta seemed to be struggling to manage his resources well. And I believe he is creating a bit of friction in the locker room at this point, especially with the recent changes in terms of the goalkeeper selection. I'm still keeping a close eye on that. You know,
Well, I-
I'm still, I'm still not sure if this one decision will go down well with the likes of a Ramsdale, because really, I'm not really seeing any major difference between Rhea and Ramsdale. So I'm wondering to myself, what would have led to such a drastic shift in direction? To me, Ramsdale was one of the key players of last season. And currently, I've now seen Ramsdale in 3 games, and I am not seeing any distinctive difference between the two keepers. Have you observed anything I may have missed?
right. But it's always funny to hear you guys talk about this locker room issue at Arsenal because I mean previously we have heard that there was locker room friction between Saka and Odegaard because Odegaard took a penalty and the whole works. And then the following match, Saka went back and took penalties and he's been on
Mm,
since and the team seems fine. With
yeah.
the situation, I just believe that a player can carry you to this point. So if the coach thinks it's his opinion that, Ramsey got us to this point, but no, this is the keeper that's going to carry us to this other point, then we just have to operate with what the manager thinks because we have seen players who have done good bits for their team have gone to move on. Even we can look and we can say the same about Cancelo. Cancelo was there at Man City. He was arguably one of the best fullbacks we have ever seen in his prime time at Man City. But
Yeah, but in the case of Cancelo, we know what happened there. We know he was getting ahead of himself in terms of, disrespect and issues with the manager. So the manager did the right thing and got rid of him. So that's a different situation. We're not hearing anything of Ramsdale putting a foot wrong. That's the
no,
difference. Ramsdale hasn't put a foot wrong. And yet he is now on the bench.
no man, that's relax. What started was and Cancelo had an issue, and Pep said, "Listen, all right, what it is." So for me, it doesn't matter, and I think most Arsenal fans will share the same sentiment. It doesn't matter who starts in goals from once you're getting the results that we want, then we're pretty fine with that. I don't think it should cause any friction. At the end of the day, no player is bigger than the club. So if it's a case where Ramsdale feels that man I'm being bypassed, then you move on from the club.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Ramsdale, definitely, I will definitely be pushing for a January move, especially with the Euros, coming up in the summer. You have to get some playing time in order to be selected. But then again, with this England manager, you could be sitting on the bench and still get called up to the national team. But, we will see how it plays out for sure. No point dwelling on this point. But we'll see how it pans out. But what's your view on this weekend's action? What's your take?
Um, I think this weekend went somewhat according to, I guess most persons could have figured out or predict the results to an extent. We
Well,
expected.
let me not go without saying that I call this one right down the middle, spot on. I call this one 2-2, and so it was. So, viewers and subscribers, right now I have the Midas touch. So, if you want the lotto numbers, just link up.
So if you guys don't see me again on the podcast, you know that I've won the lotto. So, Rafa is a key man to link. But this weekend went pretty much as how we expected in terms of maybe not the exact score lines, but in terms of results, wins, draws. Um, United picked up a win. City, we expected them to win. Newcastle, Liverpool. I think Chelsea, no one has high expectations of Chelsea anymore. So Chelsea loss didn't really come as a shocker. So, the weekend planned out as how we somewhat expected it. I think things should get more interesting in the next coming weeks because now we have the top five or the top six teams running into each other, as you mentioned earlier, which will be here again on Thursday to discuss. Spurs, Liverpool. Then of course we have City, Arsenal. Then we have Brighton as well playing Arsenal. So we're going to have a few of those teams in the top six, top seven going against each other. So of course table is the table has no option but to shift within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the table is definitely starting to take shape. And as you mentioned, some really interesting and tough games coming up. I know for sure that Aston Villa, for example, will be playing Brighton next week as well, in addition to Liverpool taking on Spurs. So that those two games alone could have some serious implication in terms of, the jostling at the top of the table right now. But, you can't go without recognizing that a few teams are operating under the radar and are off to some really good start in the league. Aston Villa, your hats must go off to Aston Villa. A very good start. Also, Brighton playing some very good football as well and churning out some results. One of the criticisms of Brighton under Potter was that they weren't scoring enough goals. But definitely Deserve not only have them playing some excellent football, but they are also finding the back of the net. And, that team seemed to be really gelling and operating as one, especially from an attacking point of view. Of course, they are definitely vulnerable defensively, but attacking wise, they're definitely scoring. So it was an interesting weekend of football. As you said, not many upsets per se. A few persons were touting Manchester United to lose that one, but they managed to barely squeeze out a 1-0 victory, I mean, when you check the possession stats, Burnley had 70% of the ball. So, I mean, that in itself is a hallmark that this Manchester United team, anyone had any aspirations of them, becoming champions, you can forget it. So, start thinking about next season because
But
it's now what 11 year since their last title, their last title. So it's beginning to look like Arsenal. Arsenal is now what? 20-year drought?
uh, 2000 and what, 2004? So,
So, yeah, I mean, it's really a drought. I mean, you guys seem to be tracking down Liverpool's record, you know, 30 years on the bunks. What Arsenal is now 20 and Man U has now crossed over a decade since their last title. So, I mean, this season, definitely, I don't see Manchester United winning the title. I mean, best case scenario, maybe a top four finish, but for sure, unless something massively change, maybe in the January window, then I don't see them,
I was,
what I use, Carey, to determine who's going to be champions is the quality of football, the system they are playing.
mhm.
Champion teams forces other teams to play their way. You don't see Man City going and changing their system when they are playing teams. That is the hallmark of champions. Same thing with Liverpool. Liverpool plays one way, Man City plays one way, Brighton plays one way, and they take the game to teams. They dominate the possession and forces team to adapt to their style. And I'm not seeing that with Manchester United. I'm seeing that with these other teams, but certainly not United.
But the thing is about it, even though I was wrong, because remember earlier in our preseason, I was saying that the only team that I would have really seen to challenge Arsenal and City was Chelsea. Well, that is going horribly wrong. But at the same time, you guys were mentioning United, and I told you guys that United definitely won't be in because I could have seen what's happening now to United. I could have seen it from then because United goes out and spend 75, 80 million on a teenager who we have never really seen on a real professional level. And then you have Rashford, then you have Bruno, and then you have the tail legs of Casemiro, and you have Varane, who those players, Ericsson, Casemiro, Varane, those players are way past them prime. You understand?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
So
But it is what it is. It is what it is. We'll see how the season pans out. But that's all the time we have, viewers and subscribers. Just like to thank Kiri again for passing through and sharing with us his thoughts. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.